Hello everybody, I'm Miguel Ángel Ceja Morales. I'm a student in the Institute of Physics and Mathematics in the Universidad Michoacana San Nicolás de Hidalgo. Today I'm going to talk about one of my PhD project titled Study of Emulsion's Thermal Properties of Oleic Acid in Sodium Dodecyl Sulfate as a function of volume fraction and temperature. To introduce to this work, I'm going to talk about photothermal techniques, which have been developed to study thermal properties of different kinds of materials. Thermal wave resonator cavity is used to characterize fluids or nanofluids conformed of magnetic, ceramic, or polymeric nanoparticles, among others. In this work, thermal wave resonator cavity technique was implemented to characterize emulsions with different volume fraction of the dispersed phase and different temperature. 3D printed pieces were used to optimize the cost and develop a simple technique able to be reproduced in other laboratories. To study the properties of these emulsions, a cooler heat system was developed to control the temperature using Peltier cells and control it with an Arduino board. Additionally, effective media approximation models are used to analyze the thermal conductivity behavior of emulsions. First, I'm going to talk about the methodology developed. By one side, the emulsions. Emulsions are systems formed by drops of one liquid phase suspended in another continuum phase, immiscible to the dispersed phase, the last one. Their lifetime depends on the interfacial tension, size, and the density of the phases, among others. Emulsions were elaborated using oleic acid as a dispersed phase and sodium dodecyl sulfate as a continuous phase at different concentration. In our case, we did different tests changing the concentration, the molar concentration of sodium dodecyl, but the best concentration was at 100 millimolar, and the solution, it was in solution equation, and as a dispersed phase was the oleic acid. By other side, we have the experimental methodology. It means thermal characterization. Thermal wave resonator cavity is a technique to determine thermal properties of fluids using the solution of heat diffusion. The next equation, where K is the thermal conductivity, alpha is the thermal diffusivity, T is the temperature field, K is the heat. And under this one, we have the analytical solution, which we can separate in an amplitude and a phase, and it is to compare with the experimental measurement. The image shows in the right hand side is the experimental. Basically, we use a laser diode to produce a sinusoidal source. It induces heat in a silicon wafer. It transforms the radiation in heat, and the heat is propagated by the sample, in this case the emulsions, and it is received by the piezoelectric sensor. After that, the signal is amplified with these amplifiers and the locking amplifier, and later the signal is compared with the with the analytical solution, the phase and the amplitude. Then we use the effective media theory, in particular Lewis and Nielsen model. In this slide, we show the equation of this model, and then we need to change the thermal diffusivity to the thermal conductivity to apply this theory. The relation is K equals alpha rho C, and the thermal conductivity of SDS in water was determined as an effective conductivity using the density of the water and the SDS and the head capacity of them. In this slide, the color system is shown. We use an Arduino Mega and Peltier cells, bridge H. The bridge H are used to change the voltage of the Peltier cell, and we can cooler or heater the system. In the right hand side we have the sample container. It is putting inside the thermal wave resonator cavity system. Then we circle water and we can change the temperature of our samples. Finally, we have the results. On the left side, we have the thermal diffusivity as a function of the volume fraction. We can see the behavior of the amplitude when we have more volume fraction. We can see a diminution of the diffusivity. And by other side, in the right hand and the right side, we can see the thermal conductivity as a function of the volume fraction. And the blue line is the Nielsen model. We can see how it over the data points. The second part of the result was using only emulsions with 5% of oleic acid and 95% of SDS at different temperatures. By the left side, we can see the thermal diffusivity at different temperatures, and we can see a growing behavior of the water and SDS. By the right side, we have the SDS, and under the table is the oleic acid in blue. You can see the behavior of the oleic acid is almost the same, and the SDS is growing like we can see in the last graphic. And when we mix them, the SDS and oleic acid or the oil, we obtain the emulsion. And obviously the emulsion is between those one. But we can see the behavior of the emulsions are similar to SDS behavior. It means it is growing, or it have a growing behavior. As a conclusion, we observe a better agreement between the NELS model and the experiment data compared with other models. In this effective model was considered that the suspended material is distributed in the matrix and formed by spheres and a simple cubic packing factor, which is an acceptable approximation to the experimental. Why? Because using a microscope, we can observe the emulsions dropped have spherical geometry, and the emulsions observed are uniform. Additionally, we observe emulsion behavior at different temperatures. At first, we can see the behavior of just when you just have the SDS. It has a growing behavior, and the oleic acid behavior of the conductivity is similar. But when we mix both, we can observe that the thermal diffusivity decreases when we add the oleic acid, and it means that oleic acid is a good material to decrease the the behavior of the emulsions, in particular in this case. Thank you so much.